Welcome back to a second week of the Sports Oracle. I'm AJ Switek here once again with Bobby Hessling. Today we have a fun one. I mean, it's been an interesting week in sports as a whole, specifically football. Jim Harbaugh's job seems to be in a bit of shambles here at the college level. So me and Bobby are going to be taking a look at his future not only with Michigan, but possibly an NFL job and how we think he would do. So Bobby, I know you're a huge Big Ten watcher, Indiana fan yourself, so take it away
Yep.
on this one.
All right. Well, the one thing that I've noticed about Jim Harbaugh, he got into the Big Ten with Michigan 2015, and he is a combined, I believe, 1-7, maybe a 1-8 versus Ohio State, Michigan State, the two big
People,
rivals.
all I do have to say though, people do forget when he came to Michigan, he did turn that program around right away.
He
I
did,
mean,
he did, and
there
that was
wasn't
the
hate
big
off
thing.
the bat.
That was the big thing, and a lot of people forget about that. You remember his second year, he took that team all the way to the number 3, I believe. They lost to Iowa, which was a backbreaker for them. They lose to Ohio State to end the season because they haven't beat Ohio State yet.
Yeah, that's just the story of Michigan. I mean, they
Yeah,
always just lose
it's
those
it's
Big Ten games when it comes down to it. I mean, really.
it's tough for them. But here's the interesting thing. Watching Indiana, who was 13th in the country, they're 10th this week. That's fun to watch. That's fun to see if you're an Indiana fan like myself. But Jim Harbaugh showed why he can't be a Big Ten coach anymore. It was just proven. The team did not look the same. I thought when they beat Minnesota, I was like, okay, this is going to be a good offense. The defense is going to be hit miss.
Well, yeah, they opened
Um,
up great.
Right, and they might have an offense that could beat Justin Fields and Ohio State. That's not been the case. They lose to Michigan State 27-24 a few weeks ago, and then they lose to Indiana 38-21, where they were just down right away and they couldn't get back into it. So he can't coach the college level. He can't win a big game. He hasn't made the Big Ten championship. I don't know how many years left he's locked in that contract, but I truly think his job is on the line because from a college to an NFL, it's so different. You look at him and say,
That's absolutely true with the college to NFL thing. I just want to let you
right,
know. I mean, it's two completely different things. I mean, yes, Michigan gets all sorts of recruits, but you just look at that defense right now. I mean, there's not much any coach could do with that.
right. And I mean, look at what he did with San Francisco. He's brought in 2011. That team was to the NFC Championship game to lose to the Giants, of course. Next year they go to the Super Bowl. They lose to the Ravens. And 2013 they're back in the playoffs. And I believe he was fired at the end of 2014, where I mean the team did okay, but it was kind of on the downfall of all the good
Well,
players from
I
that
mean,
team.
here's the thing. I understand the firing at the time. I mean, 49ers fans were livid about the play calling. But, I mean, you could admit as well, they're losing players at that point. I mean, it's the
Right.
downfall of this short Niners
Hmm.
dynasty. And then people are going to tell you he had Greg Roman. Well, Jim Harbaugh is the guy who went out and found Greg Roman and hired him. And now he's just this coveted offensive coordinator who's known as getting this offense into motion with Lamar Jackson. So people are going to tell you that Greg Roman really could have been the reason for his success, but I mean, at the end of the day, Harbaugh's the guy who found him, and it's not
Hmm.
like Roman was the guy calling plays. Yes, offensive coordinators are important. We've seen it around the league, but I mean, the head coach is the head coach for a reason. The head coach makes the biggest impact as far as the coaching goes, and I mean, Harbaugh was great at the NFL level.
He
So as a
was.
Jets fan, I mean, is he my top option as far as a coaching guy goes? Probably not. I'd prefer somebody a bit younger, a bit more explosive offense like a Cliff Kingsbury that we've seen so far. Um, but I mean, if we're talking Jim Harbaugh going back to the NFL, his time in the Big Ten could be closing. He's definitely on the hot seat. But as far as a return to the NFL goes, I don't think that's out of the question whatsoever. Whether if he's a coordinator or even more likely a head coach for a team like the Texans. I mean, potentially taking over for Zimmer's spot in Minnesota if they stop this little winning streak they're on. I mean, taking over for the Jets, taking over for Jacksonville. There's going to be a lot of openings in this offseason. And I mean, it's really his time if he wants to bite back into this NFL and it's not biting off more than he can chew. I could definitely see Harbaugh making some sort of return to the NFL level.
Right, and I think right now his best chance is to. I think he would work well with the Bears. My personal take on that. Remember, he played with the Bears for a few years,
Well,
but
I
I
do want to
understand
tell
your
you
point
this.
about
I
the
do want to tell you this
Texans.
before we go to the Bears and the Texans. A little Jets fact for you. I don't know how well he worked with the Jets. They're pretty dysfunctional, but in all three of their last coaching searches, they've tried to draw in Jim Harbaugh all three times. He declined them. But at this point, it's where beggars can't be choosers. I mean, if Jim Harbaugh needs a new job and the Jets are the option, I could see it happening. I really could.
Right, and I'm not doubting that. And his head coaching record, I believe this is with Michigan. I don't know how accurate this is. This might be. Did he coach anywhere else in college? I can't remember.
I think it's just Ann Arbor.
All right.
We could be wrong, but
So if this is true, he's 103 and 40. Does that sound right to you?
I mean, it could. I mean, it's right around there, and people might look at that and say that's a great record. But that's also where the NFL and college differ a lot, with all your out of conference games and just complete layups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sorry, I know you're a Big Ten fan. Indiana has been one of those for the past couple of years now.
Rutgers,
Illinois,
Maryland.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Minnesota had 1 year, but even then, I'd take Michigan chalk all day in that. So Michigan's one of these programs that you should be. I mean, really, you should be seeing them top 10 at the end of every season. But I mean, they just drop games in the Big Ten that are just questionable. And I know people love to blame coaching all the time. When I mean, a lot of the time it's execution. I wasn't a huge Shea Patterson guy, but I mean, it's clear this season Harbaugh does not seem to be the answer in Ann Arbor.
No, he is not.
He's just not on that same level as he was when he was with that coveted San Fran team.
I have Jim Harbaugh's numbers up, and I already mentioned his college record. Here's his college postseason record. He's 2-5. That's not very good. His NFL postseason record is 5-3. And like I said, he was hired in 2013, where he went 1-1 in the postseason his first year. He was the 2 seed. They beat the Saints. They then lost to the Giants, who went on to win the Super Bowl that year. But 2012, I believe they beat the Packers. Someone else. I'm trying to remember who they won in the championship round.
Well, I mean, here's the scare with Harbaugh before we continue on his NFL success. I mean,
it's 5-3.
Yeah, you look at the postseason record. It's clear that he was a good head coach at the NFL level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be debating that. But now it's a matter of moving into this. Harbaugh is just worse at the college level, or if overall people have caught on to him and he's not as good of a coach anymore in general, not just the college level. I kind of want your take on that. Do you think he'd be a successful NFL head coach in the right situation, or do you think Harbaugh's time's done?
No, I think he'll be a right head coach in the NFL situation. The way his energy is, I feel like it's much better it's a pro level than it is a college level. Because we said this a few times already. It's more different from the college to the NFL, where the NFL is a little more consistent compared to college, where, like you mentioned, you're playing a team like Indiana the past few years, who was just barely bowl eligible. You had to play Maryland. You had to play Rutgers, who they beat Rutgers like 84-0 in 2016.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he was 44-19-1 regular season in the NFL. 49-22-1 just in total, and that was with the 49ers. That's a good record. Say what you want about it. He made Alex Smith good. He really didn't get any huge additions.
I mean, Alex Smith is known as just that game manager. That was just perfect for his system. I mean, you look at Harbaugh's system. He handpicked his guy, and he did it well, which is why I think it could be intriguing for NFL teams picking atop the draft board. If Harbaugh could get in that same situation again, if he could be interesting as an option for head coaching. I 100% agree with you, Bobby. I think that Harbaugh would absolutely, once again, succeed at the NFL level. I know, I mean, it seems to be 50-50 nationwide on people who think he's washed, but I think that most of the people calling him washed don't realize just how much success he had with San Francisco in the NFL.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just going to look off that college numbers and say, oh, like, yeah, that looks good, but that's not impressive at a college level. That's not a Nick Saban level. But you look at the NFL, where he was 44-19-1, and that was in 4 seasons, I believe. And that winning percentage was just barely 700. A 700 winning percentage in 4 seasons, that's incredible. I think he could do the same exact thing. He's given the right players, because he took I believe 6-10 San Francisco team. He gets
That's
hired.
what I'm saying. He
Takes
can turn
him to
around
14-2.
programs as well. I mean, he did that at the start of his Michigan career. So, I mean, there you have it. He doesn't really get the best recruits in Michigan either way. I mean, Michigan is definitely one of the top classes, but if you look at what he's working with just on the defense side of the ball alone, I feel like that could give you at least a little bit of leeway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, college ball is a completely different level.
Yeah, it is.
There's recruiting involved, which is just, I mean, that just changes the game for a coach. A coach who wants stability in players, you're going to get tops 4 years out of a guy. I mean, excluding the red shirts and whatnot. But unless if you have anything else to say, I think that it's pretty clear at this point that we're on the same page. Harbaugh to the NFL as we go. Would I take him over a guy like Dabo Swinney? No. But do I think
No.
that he has a more likely shot of going to the NFL than Swinney all day? All day.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Dabo leaves Clemson. I mean, people say he would for Trevor, even for Watson in Houston, but I don't see him leaving. I definitely do see Harbaugh as a potential NFL coaching option at the end of this year. Even if he's not fired, I think that he knows he's on the hot seat and he could just take his spot back up in the NFL. And just watch that here with Bobby Hessling with the Sports Oracle signing off.